Happy 2022, folks, and welcome to episode 423 of #AskGSM here today for Wednesday, January 5th, 2022, the first episode of the new year. I'm Graham GSM Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well. If you want to send in a question to the show, you can do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the hashtag #AskGSM. Find me on Facebook as well, facebook.com/Graham.GSM.Matthews. Drop your question on the post that I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, drop your question down below on the comment section on this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. Coming up either tomorrow or on Friday here on the channel will be my interview with the new NXT champion, Bron Breakker. Now, we actually just talked to Bron about a month ago. I think we got one of the first interviews with Bron since he joined NXT 2.0 in late 2021. That was a video interview, one of my favorite ones in recent memory. He was awesome. And he was even better this time around. So we just had a chance to chat like right before I hit record on this. Got off the phone with him, hit record here. Just won the NXT Championship last night at NXT New Year's Eve. And he was great to chat with for about 15 minutes. So that should be up in article form, probably over at dailyddt.com. And definitely in audio form here on the channel. Either tomorrow, probably Friday is what I'm thinking. So keep an eye out for that. I've been uploading all of my psych interviews over the last couple of days. Those have been backlogged for a while, so got to put those. There's like one more I still got to put up, but go out and check those out. So I put those up on over the weekend, Monday. There's not a lot of stuff going on right now as far as like Peacock content to cover, and the holidays were kind of going on and whatever. I'm still a little under the weather from coming out of the new year. I have like some slight congestion. You could probably hear it in my voice right now. So I'm going to try to get through this as best as possible. But yeah, that's about it on that front. So let's get right into it first with the YouTube questions, starting with No L. Their first question was, do you see the Rainmaker by the end of this year either wrestling CM Punk or Bryan Danielson for AEW? I don't know if you sent that before or after. Probably after. CM Punk had gone on Twitter last night, or yesterday afternoon, I think, and had said, he had tagged Okada, put up an address and said, come find me. It wasn't his address, don't get it twisted. It was the address of the United Center, which is where he returned in Chicago last August. That would be fucking awesome. I'm sure at some point, I think it's more likely we get Okada and Danielson at some point than Okada and Punk. I feel like Danielson is just a lock for New Japan. Punk in New Japan would be cool too. Not saying that it won't happen. I just feel like Bryan is more likely, at least in the foreseeable future. So not like right now, but probably later on in 2022. I'm a little surprised they didn't have any AEW talent from what I can gather at the Wrestle Kingdom show, night 1 or night 2. I finished night 1, liked it. Night 2, I still got to watch today. Little surprised there were no AEW talent at all, but hopefully at some point they can kind of work those people in. They don't need AEW talent, and vice versa, like New Japan talent and AEW, especially with how many people they've already brought in and signed, and we still don't see on TV. But at some point it's got to happen. So maybe by the end of this year, could I see Okada wrestling Bryan or Punk in AEW? Maybe. I don't think it will happen for sure by the end of this year. Do I see Okada popping up in AEW this year? I do. I feel like we've gotten close enough to where Kota Ibushi would be awesome in AEW. Not to sign or anything, but like just to make an appearance. Him, Tanahashi, and Okada have got to be the top 3 people that we got to see in AEW. Like we have to. At some point, just make an appearance. I think Okada would be the ultimate. He is the new IWGP heavyweight champion. Maybe he lost it last night. I don't know. I haven't watched night 2 yet of Wrestle Kingdom to Will Ospreay. But yeah, hopefully at some point we get to see him. And I think this year could be the year because the last major name that we got in AEW from New Japan was Suzuki. And he's a pretty big name. We got Ishii actually after him back in November, right after Full Gear. I mean, COVID might fuck things up again because it's getting worse and the variant and travel issues and all that other bullshit. That might kind of put a stop to it. But hopefully at some point we do see Okada in AEW. Maybe not necessarily wrestling one of those 2 names, but it would be a pretty... It's a big deal. That's like a Wrestle Kingdom type match for next year. And if not, that's a big match for like All Out. You don't just do that on Dynamite. Like that's a big match. Punk and Okada, or Bryan and Okada, You got to promote that as much as possible. Thoughts on the whole Big Swole incident? It was a fucking mess. I mean, it's been a couple days by this point, but I kind of talked a little bit about it on Twitter on New Year's Day on Sunday or Saturday, whenever New Year's Day was. I don't know. I just feel like with Big Swole, I've never been like the biggest Big Swole fan. I became a bigger fan of her actually after meeting her in August or September, whatever, over All Out Weekend because she was so nice. I was never, and still am not like the biggest fan of her in-ring work, but I thought she was decent enough to where they could have at least used her in the last year of her career in AEW. I know that she had health issues and stuff like that, but there were plenty of times where she was healthy enough to be put in tournaments and they didn't for whatever reason. Tony Khan just didn't want to. So she spoke her piece on her podcast talking about the diversity, lack of diversity. I'm not really one to speak on that. I do think AEW has diversity. Do they have enough diversity? That's definitely arguable. Do they? Probably not. I thought Tony's response was complete garbage. First of all, he shouldn't have responded at all. I think Swole's comments, whether you agree with them or not, are justified. It's not like she went on her podcast and called Tony Khan racist, or shit on the company. She had a lot of praise for AEW while she was there and since she's been gone. But she has her own experiences. She worked there. She would know. She knows what goes on behind the scenes, not just in front of the cameras. And those are her thoughts, and I respect that, and I agree with most of what she said, if not everything. Again, I don't work there, so I don't know everything about, there's not enough diversity and whatever, but from watching the show, I can see what she's referring to. And again, it goes back to the argument that you shouldn't just put the title on someone because of their race or ethnicity or because of their sexual orientation or whatever, just to be different or just to be historic or whatever. That goes for any company. You got to do it if it makes sense, or if they're good enough to be in that spot, then do it. You got to push certain people, that was the thing. For example, Private Party, not that they should have been World Tag Team Champions by now for sure, but I mean, those guys were white hot, and I don't think they're being de-pushed because of their race or anything, but that's an example of a team, people of color or whatever in that company that they should absolutely be doing more with. Like Jay Lethal, I know there were the allegations against him and stuff, and maybe that's why he hasn't been on TV, but we have not seen him at all since he signed 2 months ago. What the fuck have they done with Jay Lethal? Absolutely nothing. So, I don't think that's just it's all the black people they're holding down in AEW. I think there's a lot of people like that. I would throw Brian Cage in that conversation. Lance Archer, even while he was around, we didn't really see, not that we didn't see much of him, but they weren't doing jack shit with him anyway. So I don't really think it's a race thing, but I could absolutely see where she's coming from as far as the diversity thing goes and there being more of it. It's constructive criticism, I thought. Tony Khan can respond, and he probably should have responded at some other point when he was asked about it, taking it upon himself on New Year's Eve to tweet a response in response to Fightful's headline on it or whatever was fucking dumb. It wasn't just the fact that he responded, because you would never see that from a Vince or any other type of, who are not perfect by any means, but they wouldn't do that because it's dumb. It's stupid. He buried himself 6 feet under with that response. It was really dumb. Including, I'm sure, with a lot of his own employees and that work in that company. Leo Rush being one of them before he offered a follow-up statement saying that he talked to Tony. Great, but Tony never actually addressed it publicly after the fact. That's the thing. He put out that stupid fucking tweet. I'm not surprised that it's still up. It didn't really bother me that the tweet is still up like he said it. The problem is that he never really offered up a follow-up, and even if he apologizes and people don't believe it because they think it's disingenuous, at least he fucking apologized or said something. He just hasn't even said anything. Publicly, if you're going to publicly say the shit that you do, you also have to publicly apologize. If he had never addressed it in the first place, there would be nothing for him to apologize for. People were not going to say, oh, Big Swole said this on the podcast, Tony Khan should come out and say sorry to Big Swole. No one would have said that. People are saying that he should apologize because it was really dumb what he said. And not everything of what he said in his tweet was wrong. If he just included the diversity thing, we're okay, you say we don't have diversity, we do, here are my points. First of all, his point about, X, Y, and Z won on TV this month is fucking dumb. I mean, that was one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. It's a fake sport. That shit means nothing. I mean, even if he said they were champions. At least that's a little better than saying they won on... What does that even mean? They won on TV? Private Party won a fucking 8-man tag team match where they didn't even get the winning fall. They were complete afterthoughts. FTR won for that team, and they were complete afterthoughts. The focus was on the Lucha Bros and Jurassic Express. Diddly squat, it means that the fucking Private Party won an 8-man tag team match on Dynamite. Oh my God, they're being pushed. Like, no one gives a fuck. That was a really dumb thing for him to say. And then it kind of, missed the point entirely and say that he let her go because he didn't think her wrestling was good enough was probably the biggest issue with it all, because it felt petty. It felt like one of those things where it's like, it's like a typical guy situation, you know what I mean? Like, oh, that chick is so hot, but then she turns him down. It's like, well, you were ugly anyway. You're a bitch anyway. Like, I feel like it's that type of thing. Obviously not as bad, but not using those exact words with Tony Khan, but, it's just not a good look. It's not a good look. Like, I don't think that Big Swole was the greatest in-ring worker. Him wanting to get rid of her because she didn't think that she was that good. There's nothing wrong with that, but, like, that wasn't her point, though. I don't know. It's not like she said that she was let go because... It's not like she made an accusation that she was fired because she thought that because he's racist. You know what I mean? Like, she never said that. He took it a wrong way, should have never responded, took an unnecessary shot at her, when he was the same fucking mark 6-8 months earlier on a post-media scrum, one of those dumb conference calls that he does, which are so stupid, because they're never really anything notable. Like, sometimes they're kind of cool. I know I know a lot of the people that partake in them in there, they ask great questions, but Tony Khan is a goof. Like, you can't really ask him the serious stuff, so, WWE does the same thing, but you're not talking to Vince McMahon as the thing. You know what I mean? Like, I guess you kind of talk to Triple H during some of the NXT stuff. I talk to the superstars all the time, and you can't really ask super groundbreaking investigative journalism questions and whatever. It's not on the fault of the journalist, I don't think. I think it falls more on the, with Tony Khan saying stuff like that. Oh, I think Big Swole's great. She's improved. And then a couple of months later, she's not that good. Like, what the fuck is it, buddy? Then what am I supposed to believe coming out of this man's mouth moving forward? He can eliminate that altogether by stop being so accessible. I hate to say it, but if he's going to be dumb like that and go overboard and constantly having to respond and answer every question thrown his way, he's going to dig a deeper hole for himself. I'm not saying that he should never do any interviews, but the amount of times I've seen him appear on shows, and it just opens up the lines to more criticism. And if you're okay with it, that's fine. But you got to expect backlash of like what he got on Saturday night, like or Friday night or whatever on New Year's Eve. That was really fucking dumb. And again, he never really followed up on it, never really apologized. And he also ended the tweet by plugging Rampage. Like, bro, no one gives a fuck. No one cares. No one gives a shit about fucking Ethan Page and Cody Rhodes. And no one gives a shit. So just stop. It's not a good look. The situation was just embarrassing. I'm sure he'll come out and say something eventually. It's been days and he hasn't so far. But this is the thing, again. If he wasn't so loud and fucking annoying about ratings, Fox News got our ratings wrong. Like, dude, no one asked. Who cares? Who cares? It's like immaturity at this point. If he didn't do that shit, then I don't really think it would be that big of a problem, because we wouldn't hear from him anyway. But you can't just address what you want and then not address this other stuff is that of actual concern. That's kind of where my problem with it. The diversity thing I get, that's not really for me to speak on personally, given my place in this whole thing. But the other stuff, as far as how he responded, was fucking dumb. And I saw that and laughed, and I'm like, what a fucking moron. I think Tony Khan's a good guy. He's done a lot of great things for the wrestling world, but this man is no god. He is guilty of, very, very capable of being human and making mistakes and saying dumb shit. But then you got to hold yourself accountable as well. And I think so far from what we've seen, he hasn't exactly done that. At least not publicly. That's cool you talked to Leo Rush. Cool, dude. You got to address... I'm sure he maybe even spoke to Big Swole. But if you're going to put out a public tweet saying what you did, offending a lot of people and turning off a lot of different fans, you probably should offer a follow-up statement discussing what you said. Just my opinion. We move on now to the Facebook questions. Also from Noel. Their first one was, what are your top 5 movies in 2022 that you're looking forward to the most? I don't know. I know Morbius was supposed to come out this month. Not that I was really looking forward to it, but just thought it was worth throwing out there because it was supposed to come out in the 28th or something, and then they said they pushed it back again due to COVID. I guess that makes sense, but I don't know. It was just weird. I wasn't really looking forward to that, though. Scream 5 comes out next weekend, and I was never the biggest Scream fan. I don't know. With Halloween, for example, I saw the reboot of Halloween I saw the most recent one, too, but I saw the initial reboot in 2018. I never, loved the original movies, but I thought the reboot would have been cool, and it was, and I loved it. I don't know. I like them kind of revisiting this type of stuff. I saw the first Scream movie, and I really liked it. I don't think I've seen the other ones in full. Definitely parts of them. I think I tried to watch Scream 3 or 4 about a year ago or so during Halloween season, but I'll be watching that next weekend, hopefully. I'm looking forward to that. The Marvel movies that were given, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness is coming out in May. July, I think, is Thor: Love and Thunder, the 4th Thor movie. And then Black Panther 2 later on in the year, I think November. So I'm looking forward to all that stuff. I honestly don't even know what's out. I saw the last John Wick movie. Maybe they pushed that back too, but I'll probably see the next one because I saw the 3rd one. I don't think I've seen the first 2, which is bad. Maybe I'll watch that, but excuse me. I don't know. I don't really know what else is out this year that I'm aware of. Honestly, I don't even really. I'm trying to think right now. The new Batman movie looks cool. Peacemaker's a show with Cena. I'm looking forward to Batman though. That looks good. What was the other DC movie? Suicide Squad already came out. That was awesome. I talked about that last week. I don't remember. The Batman movie. And Black Adam? Is that this year? Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. That and Shazam 2. That's also out this year. I'm looking forward to that. They got a couple good DC movies coming out this year, or movies that at least look good. They could end up being garbage, but I don't know. I look forward to those. So those are just a few I can think of. There's probably more that just don't come to mind. I thought last year was great for movies. I talked about it last week, but I saw a lot of movies in 2021. A lot of the movies that were bumped back from 2020, and we finally got them last year, and they were all great. There were a lot of great movies that came out last year. I don't know how 2022 is going to top it. I feel like this is kind of a down year. We'll see, but at least Marvel has some good stuff coming up for me personally. Their next question from Facebook. Who do you think is a better IWGP World Champion, the Ace Tanahashi or the Rainmaker Okada? I don't closely follow New Japan, so I can't say with 100% certainty. From what I have seen, Okada. I don't think I have seen any major New Japan shows where Tanahashi was champion. Maybe when Okada beat Tanahashi as champion. I've seen a couple Wrestle Kingdoms. I watched Wrestle Kingdom in full in 2015. I watched Wrestle Kingdom then. 2016 I saw, I think, maybe the main event. Definitely Styles and Nakamura I watched. 2017 I watched the main event. 2018 I watched the main event, I think. Or at least some of the top matches. 2019, I don't think I watched the whole show. Or in 2020. But I think I watched some of the top matches. Last year I watched the whole thing. This year I watched the whole thing. There have been other shows, I've watched some of the ones in the summer, and other points in the year, if there's a big enough match that interests me. But Okada's been the champion almost every time. I mean, Okada is one of the best in the world. Tanahashi is too. I'm a big Okada mark, and I don't even watch New Japan that closely, and I fucking love Okada, so I gotta stick with my bias here and go with Okada. Even if I wasn't biased, I'm sure I would still say Okada, because I don't know, he's had some of the greatest reigns of all time, as has Tanahashi, but the matches Okada has had have just been legendary, so gotta go with the Rainmaker. Transitioning now over to the Twitter questions at Iwagu91. First question here. First off, Happy New Year. Thank you. Happy New Year to you as well, my man. His first question was, yesterday marked, He's talking about the 4th. I think. Yeah, I think he's talking about the 4th. Yesterday marked the 5th anniversary of Kazuchika Okada and Kenny Omega's classic first match at Wrestle Kingdom 11. Have you watched it? Yeah, like I said, I did. Because everyone was making such a big deal about it, about the Okada-Omega match, that I had to go out of my way to watch it. I think I actually reviewed it on my website back in 2017, because they put it out as its own episode of like New Japan on Access TV. So I actually got sent the link to the match from that year, and it was an amazing match. Loved it. And yeah, I would recommend everyone go out of their way to watch it if they haven't already. So yeah, Okada and Omega was one of those groundbreaking It might have been, I don't know if it was the first time Meltzer broke his own star rating scale. Not that that's a major deal. I don't really base everything off of Meltzer, but it deserved it. It was an amazing match, and I got a lot of people talking. I had seen New Japan before, but it was one of those matches that it made me go out of my way to watch it. And it was like an hour long, I think, right? And then Okada won, and then they went to a draw after that, and then Omega won the third match. He excuse me. He had won a match like in between there, in like the G1 climax or something. But anyway, I do remember watching it. It's crazy to think it's been 5 years. I feel old now that you told me that. But yeah, it was a great match, though. His second question: considering that War Games became the Undisputed Era's bread and butter, do you suppose the next Blood and Guts match will have the reunited Cole, Fish, and O'Reilly tandem take on the Elite? That's a great idea. I never really thought about that. I think we all kind of tossed around the idea of like the Omega or the Elite versus whatever the Undisputed Era are going to be called in AEW. That match being a Blood and Guts match, because I really don't give a fuck about faction wars. That is one I actually care about. Because the Elite are the OGs. In the Undisputed Era, I mean, Cole specifically has history with the Elite. But not only that, but he built his own faction in another company, now bringing it to this company. So it's a great story. It can be a great match. And not only can it be inside... the thing is that those matches are typically 4-on-4, 5-on-5. That's 3-on-3. Would you need another? Would Roderick Strong be available by then? Probably not. I don't know who the Elite would bring in. Maybe Paige, I was thinking. I don't know. But yeah, that it would make sense because the Undisputed Era made names for themselves inside War Games, obviously in a different name, but under the original name of the match, War Games, they made a name for themselves in 2017, 2018, 2019, and 2020. So that would be quite fitting, and I think that'd be awesome. I would absolutely be all for that. Or maybe they could do... I would really rather just be the Elite and the Undisputed Era. But I guess you could do a third faction. What that would be, I don't know. But you can kind of do something similar to what they did in 2017 with Sanity, Undisputed Era, and then Roderick Strong and AOP, where it was like 3 teams of 3. I was fine with that at the time, and I'm still fine with it. It was a great match. But I just wouldn't want to muddy that down in AEW by bringing in a random third trio if it doesn't make sense. The real feud there is the Elite and Undisputed Era. So if they can figure out the numbers thing, I think that would be an awesome idea. His third question here. Now that they're both all Elite, would you like to see Bryan Danielson versus Kyle O'Reilly in the company? I do, and I know Bryan wants to see it. When I interviewed him back in March, the people that he said that he wanted to face, a lot of those people are now available. Or he is now able to face. Okada was a given, and now they can have that happen with the New Japan relationship. He mentioned Danielson, he is Danielson. He mentioned O'Reilly, as you mentioned, and he was in NXT at that point, but now he's in AEW, so that can now happen. He mentioned Kushida, unless he gets released, that's probably not going to happen anytime soon. He mentioned Grand Metalik, and now Grand Metalik has gone from WWE, so when he's free to not sign to the AEW, I don't really want to see that necessarily, but do a one-off, I think that'd be awesome. That, and then all the AEW people he mentioned, Darby Allin, MJF, Jungle Boy, I think he mentioned when we talked. All of those matches are now possible, so. But yeah, O'Reilly was one of them. And Jonathan Gresham, too. That's got to happen at some point. Jonathan Gresham isn't all Elite or anything, but he's a guy that could come in and do a one-off or whatever, and they could have an awesome match. But yeah, O'Reilly and Danielson, I think It's got to happen. It should happen. And I think at some point it will happen. With enough time, if Danielson doesn't retire like next year or whatever, I'm sure I'm sure Tony Khan will book that match eventually. At Reborn Again, John Ritland from the Twitter machine. Check out his YouTube show as well. Real Honesty with John Ritland. Does great work. His first question was, so what are the chances Bobby Lashley versus Brock Lesnar at the Royal Rumble is either a one-off or a quick squash? Honestly, it could be both, and I hate to say it, but I said this on Twitter the other day. It gives me vibes of Brock Lesnar versus Samoa Joe from a couple of years ago. Not a couple at this point. It would have been 4 or 5 years ago at this point, but great feud, great promos leading up to it, a lot of anticipation for the match. Joe got a lot of offense in, but it ended up being 5 minutes, and Brock won clean with a 1 F5. That is what I expect to happen. Now, I've seen people speculate, maybe Bobby will win because Brock's not going to be champion going into WrestleMania. That is very possible. Bobby could win, which is great, which would be amazing. The problem, though, is that I also, that's great, but I just want the match to be what it has the potential to be. That Goldberg match at WrestleMania 33, was perfect because it was like 4 or 5 minutes. It was exactly what it needed to be. I think these two, though, are capable of more than that. That match was good because Goldberg was fucking 50 or 40, late 40s, 50, whatever. At that point, he probably would have been 50-51. Bobby's on the older side, too, and Brock's, I think, in his early 40s. Bobby might be older than Brock, I don't know, but they're definitely both in their 40s. But they can both move around like they're in their 30s. That's the thing. Like, I feel like they're capable, not of like a 20-minute classic, but I feel like they can have like a good 10-minute competitive match. I'm not getting my hopes up, like you said, knowing what Brock has done before. Like, the Roman match from Crown Jewel is exactly what I want out of the Bobby match. That wasn't like 20 minutes from what I can remember, but it was at least closer to 10, and it was competitive, and it was storyline driven. It was explosive. That's what I want out of the Bobby match at the Rumble. We've waited this long for it. I think it could be a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to hopefully them doing just that. So I'm hoping it's not a quick squash. The only way I would be okay with it being a quick squash is if Bobby immediately killed Brock like Goldberg did 5 years ago. That's not going to happen. And I don't think it should happen anyway, because you got to protect Brock to a certain degree if he's going to face Roman at some point. And they're clearly going to build up. They're clearly going to blow that off eventually. So, yeah, I'm hoping it's a bigger, longer match, but I'm not getting my hopes up because I have before with the Brock matches, and they've ultimately disappointed. So we'll see what they ultimately do and what they have in store. His second question, it's 2022. Why is the 24/7 title still a thing? Your guess is as good as mine, brother. I have no idea. I know USA Network wanted it. It was their idea originally 3 years ago. I can't imagine they're still petitioning for that thing. It's such a dumb concept, and you can get creative with it, and I will give them credit sometimes recently in recent months. They film the skits outside of the building and whatever, and those can get fun sometimes, but it's the same 3 or 4 faces. No one gives a fuck. Defending it in matches in the ring has always been pointless. The matches are never any good. No one ever really cares. The thing is as valuable as toilet paper. And toilet paper is probably more valuable as it was 2 years ago when COVID first started. That thing is completely and utterly pointless. I don't know why it's still around. They really just should get rid of it. I'm not holding my breath. It's been almost 3 years now. And that thing got old probably after the Maverick and Truth wedding stuff. And that was back in 2019. It has been a complete prop since later on in 2019. I don't know why it's still around. Honestly, I would love to know. I would love to know what from one of these insider dirt sheets, whatever. You talk about, the network this and the network that. Why is the 24/7 title still around? That is the question. Let's see. His next question, is there a Rumble match you didn't like at first, but like now? And on the flip side, is there one that you did like at first, but don't like now? That's a great question. I've probably answered this before. As far as the Rumble, I didn't like it first, and I like now. I don't know. I've seen them all, some more than others, more than more recent ones. I feel like all the Rumbles I like and don't like are pretty much the same as what they were when I first saw them. The '07 one I never really cared about, but going back to watch it, it is a very good Rumble. So maybe that one. That would be a good choice, I guess. That one, trying to think. 2009, 2010 I loved, still love. 2011, I think, 2011 I always called my favorite Rumble, and I don't know why, because 40 Men was a fucking mess. And I love the Booker T and Kevin Nash Diesel returns, and I love the story they told with Punk and with Cena taking him out and whatever. Beyond that, though, that match is a lot of nothing. It's a lot of filler, so that would probably fulfill the second part of your question as far as a Rumble I used to really like, but don't really like now. A Rumble I didn't like at first, but I like now, probably the '07 one. When I first saw it, didn't really care. I'm trying to think, like, I don't know, the '03, '04 Rumbles I always knew were good. They're not among my favorites or anything, but they are good Rumbles. I always liked, like, the '01 Rumble. The 2000 Rumble, maybe. That one's a lot of fun, I think. Never, like, loved it originally, but I've gone back and watched it a time or two since then, since I first saw it, and I do enjoy it. If only for, like, the MSG vibe of it, and I don't know, it was a fun Rumble, I thought. Beyond that, like, the '92 Rumble is obviously iconic. I never not liked that one, I don't think. The ones in the '90s I don't really care too much about. So that's why I'm trying to think of, like, the early 2000s, you know. Like, '05 I always enjoyed. '06 I never really cared too much about. '08 I've always liked. 2010 has always been among my favorites. 2012 I always fucking thought was trash. 2013 I thought was really, really good, and I still think it's a good one. I don't think it's as good now as I thought it was when it first happened, but that was a good one. 2014 and 2015 were fucking garbage, and I still feel that way. 2016 I still like. 2017 I still kind of feel indifferent about. 2018 I still enjoy. 2019, 2021 I still think is one of the best they've ever done. 2019 I think may have been better than I don't remember. I haven't seen that one. I gotta go back and watch that one. I don't remember. I feel like I didn't love it at the time, but it was, I don't know. I'm not sure. But those are a few answers. I know that's kind of all over the place. Probably should have prepared for that a little bit better, but the '07 one, I think I like more now than I did when I first saw it. And the 2011 one, I think is worse now. And maybe 2013, but definitely 2011. I overrated that quite a bit. I always said for the longest time, one of my favorite Rumbles. Definitely not anymore. Definitely not anymore. I will definitely tell you that much. And that was about it. I think we got one more question from @Thomas_B96. Do you see Kevin Owens being cut before his contract expires, or do you see him as invincible? The only people that are probably invincible are Roman Reigns and maybe Randy Orton, maybe. And even then, anything can happen. I mean, if Roman did something the wrong way, they can get rid of anyone at any time, I think, as far as I know. So no one is really truly invincible. Roman would probably be the closest thing to that. Owens, by far, is not fucking invincible. Do you think the fact that he signed a 5-year, whatever, 3-year, multi-year contract for millions of dollars makes him invincible, or that automatically means they see him as a big deal? The answer is absolutely not. I mean, they signed the Revival, or tried to anyway. They tried to sign the Revival to big-time deals. They did sign Gallows and Anderson to big-time deals, and FTR didn't sign it. They never really booked him as a big deal anyway. Gallows and Anderson, they gave a push to as soon as they signed for like a month, and then they became lackeys again, and then they were just goofs, and then they got fired. So the big-time multi-year contracts mean really absolutely nothing. More power to the people, though, getting the contracts for making that much money while they can, but that doesn't guarantee longevity in this company because they can cut you at any time for any reason. And not only that, that's also not a stamp of like, we see you as a star. Like Adam Cole, reportedly, they made a great deal for. He never actually disclosed the number of what that would have been. I'm sure it would have been a pretty lofty deal had he stayed in WWE. I guarantee you he would either be gone by now, or he would have either been fired by now, or they'd be doing absolutely nothing with the guy on Raw or Smack. I guarantee you. There's no rhyme or reason for why certain people succeed on Raw and SmackDown and certain people don't. He just never really felt like a guy to me. Could he have been successful? Yes. Would he have been? Probably not. Given the current creative direction of these shows, I have zero faith they would have done right by Adam Cole. Him going to AEW is the better bet. But Kevin Owens, could he be gone before his contract expires? Absolutely. There is a very decent chance of that happening. It depends if they've reached their quota of people they want to get rid of. So far, I get the feeling they haven't. I feel like there could be still more releases to come, even though we're in the new year and whatever. You know, they could always bring more people in, call more people up, and then get rid of more people again. That happened all 2022 long. So it could happen again. And Owens could be on that list. I mean, he's not. I know he's in the main event of day one. He took the pin on Monday's Raw. Kevin Owens is great. The Raw won't really miss a beat with Owens not being on the show. I mean, that really, everyone's kind of replaceable, unfortunately. But yeah, it's not like he's a perennial main eventer. I mean, even Braun was in the main event title picture, I feel, longer and for more, substantially than Kevin Owens has been in the last 5 years. And they got rid of Braun. So what's stopping them from getting rid of Kevin Owens? Nothing. And I hope he does stay and make a lot of money and he's happy and is able to support for his family. I don't want to see him get let go. And I don't think he thinks I don't think Kevin Owens is the dumb guy. He took the money because, hey, make it for as long as it can. He's probably thinking the same exact thing. He's probably not looking at that deal saying to himself, oh, they have a lot of faith in me to be a top guy. Even if Vince, had promised him the world. Owens has got to be smart enough by this point to realize just because he's telling me that he wants to push me to the moon doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to happen. And more often than not, it doesn't. So don't be fucking dumb. He probably just did it because he was like, listen, it's a lot of money. Let's make it while I can. So why the fuck not? Which I respect him for. Will he be around when his contract expires, depending on when it is? Let's say 3 years from now. I'm going to say no, but I wouldn't be surprised if he was. Because he feels like a fine utility player for them to kind of keep around and use in like a Dolph Ziggler type role. I mean, he's not nearly as bad as Ziggler as far as the booking goes. Owens has a lot more to offer than Ziggler does at this point. But I think they see him as like a good, reliable guy that they can put the newer people with or the established guys with, and he can have a good match and thrive in any position. Face, heel, main event, tag team, mid-card, or whatever. He's always done well in whatever role they have put him in. And I think they see that, they realize that, and that's why they won't get rid of him. Not because they see him as a future main eventer or another world champion again. It could happen. I don't see him winning another world title personally, although I think it'd be cool. That's why I don't think they would get rid of him, but we've had way more surprising departures in the last year that have come at the hands of the company. So Owens being let go in the next 3 years before his contract comes due would probably not surprise me at all. I mean, honestly, and anything can change. It could only get worse from here as far as the releases and creative. It could always be worse. As bad as it is from time to time now, and as bad as the situation is as far as them letting people go, no, they can't possibly let any more people go. You would be fucking surprised. I mean, how many times did we say that last year? They would always continue to cut people. It never ceases to amaze me, but it probably should. And Owens would be no exception. So anyway, guys, that's going to do it for episode 423 here today of #AskGSM for Wednesday, January 5th, 2022. Did I say 2021 earlier? I think I said 2022. I'm still on I think it's 2021 train, so I got to get off that. As the writer, like in reviews and stuff, I still write 2021 by accident. So we're only 5 days in. Cut me a break. We'll be back next week talking all the latest in wrestling and whatnot. We got the first TBS Dynamite tonight, which I'm looking forward to. Battle of the Belts on Saturday. So a lot to look forward to. Like I said, New Year's Eve last night, great show. We got Braun Breaker, the new NXT champion, coming here to the channel either tomorrow, probably Friday, like I said. I have a lot of stuff I got to do, so keep an eye out for that in the next couple of days. And until then, guys, have a great rest of your week. Like I said earlier at the start of the show, if you want to send in a question to the show, you could do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the #AskGSM. Find me on Facebook as well. Facebook.com/Graham.GSM.Matthews and drop a comment on this very video down below, and I'll be sure to include your question in next week's edition. Happy New Year once again, guys. Have an awesome one. I'm Graham GSM Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.